Hi there. We are on day 254 of our Through the Bible in 1 year. We're in Ezekiel 44 and 45, and tomorrow we'll do the last 3 chapters and finish off Ezekiel, the promise of the future, talking about now. So, these aren't very long. We should be able to get through this pretty quick. Okay? The prince's privilege. The men then brought me back towards sanctuary's outer gate that faced east, and it was closed. The Lord said to me, "This gate will remain closed. It will not be opened, and no one will enter through it, because the Lord, the God of Israel, has entered through it. Therefore it will remain closed. The prince himself will sit in the gateway to eat a meal before the Lord. He must enter by way of the portico of the gate and go out the same way." That's Jesus, right? Then the man brought me by way of the north gate to the front of the temple. I looked, and the glory of the Lord filled his temple, and I fell face down. And the Lord said to me, "Son of man, pay attention. Look with your eyes and listen with your ears to everything I tell you about all the statutes and laws of the Lord's temple. Take careful note of the entrance of the temple along with all the exits of the sanctuary." Okay, are you ready for all the laws? This will be fun. The Levites' duties and privileges. Say to the rebellious people, the house of Israel, this is what the Lord God says. I have had enough of all your detestable practices, house of Israel. When you brought in foreigners, uncircumcised in both heart and flesh, to occupy my sanctuary, you defiled my temple. While you offered my food, the fat and the blood, you broke my covenant by all your detestable practices. You have not kept charge of my holy things, but have appointed others to keep charge of my sanctuary for you. This is what the Lord God says: "No foreigner uncircumcised in heart and flesh may enter my sanctuary, not even a foreigner who is among the Israelites. Surely the Levites who wandered away from me when Israel went astray, and who strayed from me after their idols, will bear the consequences of their sin. Yet they will occupy my sanctuary, serving as guards at the temple gates and ministering at the temple. They will slaughter the burnt offerings and the other sacrifices for the people, and will stand before them to serve them, because they ministered to the house of Israel before their idols, and became a sinful stumbling block to them. Therefore I swore an oath against them. This is the declaration of the Lord God." Why did they always put that in there? Ruins the whole sentence, right? "Therefore I swore an oath against them, that they would bear the consequences of the sin. They must not approach me to serve me as priest, or come near any of my holy things, or the most holy things. They will bear their disgrace and the consequences of the detestable acts they committed. Yet I will make them responsible for the duties of the temple, for all its work and everything done in it." Wow. They're responsible, but they can't do it, right? The priest duties and privileges. "But the Levitical priest descended from Zodok, who kept charge of my sanctuary when the Israelites went astray from me, will approach me to serve me. They will stand before me and offer me fat and blood." This is the declaration of the Lord. There it is again. "They will stand before me to offer me fat and blood. They are the ones who may enter my sanctuary and draw near to my table to serve me. They will keep my mandate. When they enter the gates and enter the court, they must wear linen garments. They must not have on them anything made of wool when they when they minister at the gates of the inner court and within it. They must wear linen turbans on their heads and linen undergarments around their waists. They are not to put anything on anything that makes them sweat. Before they go out to the outer court, to the people, they must take off the clothes they have been ministering and leave them in the holy chambers and dress in other clothes, so that they do not transmit holiness to the people through their clothes." Transmit holiness through their clothes. Isn't that interesting? "They may not shave their heads or let their hair grow long, but must carefully trim their hair. No priest may drink wine before he enters the inner court. He is not to marry a widow or a divorced woman, but must marry a virgin from the offspring of the house of Israel, or a widow who is the widow of a priest." "They must teach my people the difference between the holy and the common, and explain to them the difference between the clean and the unclean." This chapter is longer than I thought. In a dispute, they will officiate as judges and decide the case according to my ordinances. They must observe my laws and statutes regarding all of my appointed festivals and keep my Sabbaths holy. A priest may not come near a dead person so that he becomes defiled. However, he may defile himself for a father and mother, a son, a daughter, a brother, and a married sister. After he is cleansed, he is to count off 7 days for himself. On the day he goes into the sanctuary, into the inner court to minister in the sanctuary, he must present his sin offering. This is different. This will be their inheritance. I am their inheritance. You are to give them no possession in Israel. I am their possession. They will eat the grain offering, the sin offering, the restitution offering. Everything in Israel that is permanently dedicated to the Lord will belong to them. The best of all the first fruits of every kind of contribution, of every kind of all your gifts, will belong to the priest. You are to give your first batch of dough to the priest, so that a blessing may rest on your homes. The priest may not eat any bird or animal that died naturally or was mauled by wild beasts. Okay, chapter 45. More rules. When you divide the land by lot as an inheritance, you must set aside a donation to the Lord, a holy portion of land. Wow, 8 1/3 miles long, 6 2/3 miles wide. That is a big piece of land. This entire tract of land will be holy. In this area, there will be a square section, the sanctuary. Okay, 875, 870. Okay, this is the sanctuary. From this holy portion, you will measure off an area of 8 1/3 miles, 3 1/3 miles wide, in which the sanctuary, the most holy place, will stand. It will be the holy area and the land to be used by the priests who minister in the sanctuary, who draw near to serve the Lord. It will be a place for their houses, as well as a holy area for the sanctuary. There will be another 8 3/4 miles long and 3 1/3 miles wide for the Levites who minister in the temple. It will be their possession for towns to live in. As the property of the city, you must set aside an area of 1 2/3 mile by 8 1/3 miles long and adjacent to the holy donation of land. It will be for the house of Israel. And the prince will have an area on each side of the holy donation of land as the city's property, adjacent to the holy donation and the city's property, stretching to the west on the west side, to the east on the east side. Its length will correspond to one of the tribal portions from the western boundary to the eastern boundary. This will be his land as a possession in Israel. My princes will no longer oppress my people, but give the rest of the land to the house of Israel according to their tribes. This is what the Lord God says. You have gone too far, princes of Israel. Put away violence and oppression and do what is just and right. Put an end to your evictions of my people. That you must, I almost read that again. You must have honest scales, an honest dry measure, an honest liquid measure. The dry measure of the liquid measure will be uniform with the liquid measure containing 5.5 gallons and the dry measure holding half a bushel. Their measurement will be a tenth of the standard larger capacity measure. The shekel will weigh 20 gerahs. Your mina will equal 60 shekels. Wow. Right over my head, okay. The people's contribution to the sacrifices. So this is the contribution you are to offer: 3 quarts from 5 bushels of wheat and 3 quarts from 5 bushels of barley. The quota of oil in liquid measures will be 1% of every core. A core equals 10 liquid measures, and 1 standard larger capacity measure. Since 10 liquid measures equal 1 standard larger capacity measure, and the quota from the flock is 1 animal out of every 200 from the well-watered pastures of Israel. Did you get all that? Not a bit, okay? These are for the grain offerings, burnt offerings, fellowship offerings to make atonement for the people. This is the declaration of the Lord God. Again, I read that. All of the people of the land must take part in the contribution for the prince in Israel. Then the burnt offerings, grain offerings, drink offerings, festivals, noons, Sabbaths, for all the appointed time in the house of Israel will be the prince's responsibility. He will provide the sin offerings, grain offerings, burnt offerings, fellowship offerings to make atonement on behalf of the house of Israel. This is what the Lord God says. In the first month, on the first day of the month, you are to take a young, unblemished bull and purify the sanctuary. The priest must take some of the blood from the sin offering and apply it to the temple doorpost, the 4 corners of the altar's ledge, and the doorpost on the gate of the inner court. You must do the same thing on the 7th day of the month for everyone who sins unintentionally or through ignorance. In this way, you will make atonement for the people. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, you are to celebrate the Passover, the festival of 7 days during which unleavened bread will be eaten. On that day, the prince will provide a bull as a sin offering on behalf of himself and all the people of the land. During the 7 days of the festival, he'll provide 7 bulls and 7 rams without blemish as a burnt offering to the Lord on each of the 7 days, along with a male goat each day for the sin offering. Man, that's a lot of death and destruction, huh? He will also provide a grain offering of half a bushel per bull and half a bushel per ram, along with a gallon of oil for every half bushel. Wow, that is so hard to read. At the festival that begins on the 15th day of the 7th month, he will provide the same things for 7 days, the same sin offerings, burnt offerings, grain offerings, and oil. Holy cow. Crazy, huh? All those animals. I know they're feeding thousands of people, but wow. That's a lot of blood flowing, huh? Okay, tomorrow we're going to finish it. Sacrifices at appointed times, transfer of royal land, the temple kitchen, life-giving river, the borders of the land, tribal allotments. There you go, all this stuff. Look at all these measurements I got to read tomorrow. Yeah. The new city. Okay. So, and I don't think he's talking about the future because of Jesus, animal sacrifices are no longer required. So this must be something that was going to be built then and probably again torn down by some other enemies. So I have it. That's day 254. Wow. Getting there. And I'm not sure what we're going to do after we read Ezekiel. Joel. It will be Joel. And then Daniel. Daniel's a long book. And then Ezra, Joel, Daniel, Ezra, Haggai, Zechariah, Esther, Ezra, Nehemiah. Yeah, it's September 30th. We start with Luke 1. So, Luke 1, John 1. So, there you go. We'll be done with the Old Testament by the end of this month. On the last day, we will be in the New Testament. I'm looking forward to that. I want to read about Jesus. I've been reading in the Old Testament for 254 days. And I read Proverbs in the morning, which is also Old Testament. So I need to get back in I did do it last year. All year I did a New Testament, book by book, tore it apart. I did it like this one. I did it chronologically in the order they were written, not in order things happened, but the order the books were actually written. And it's very interesting. That's in my YouTube channel, I think. But it's amazing. So, but there you have it. Another day on the books, and we'll keep going until we get it finished. See you tomorrow.